Hey guys, welcome back to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So today we are back with a Zeri supplementary guide. We haven't done a Zeri video in a very long while. Now ever since patch 5, before patch 5.1. So today we're finally gonna be covering Zeri, but this is not really her main build. We're gonna cover sort of a Triforce focus build with a little bit of crit in the end, a lot of attack speed in this build. Actually, first 3 items all having attack speed, but this is a build that I kind of saw in a lot of the top Zeris using a couple of patches ago at this point, and I did test it out and I did think it was pretty good. So although it's now not really a popular Zeri build among the top players anymore, I still think it's a pretty solid build. So we're gonna just take a look at it. So we're first gonna start off with the Gluttonous Greaves for the AD and the Omni Vamp, and then we're going to Triforce. So Triforce is sort of like a item on Zeri that is good, but if you go for Triforce, you're kind of delaying your other crit items and things like that. So generally, Zeris nowadays don't really go so much for Triforce, but back in the day, Zeris always rushed Triforce. Now, of course, it gives you amazing stats. You get health from more tankiness, a little bit of AD, a decent amount of attack speed, a lot of ability haste, and of course, the main thing is, of course, the Spellblade passive, where, between your spell cast, you can, of course, proc Spellblade. Of course, Zeri spams a lot of spells with her Q especially, but also her W and E. You can just auto-attack in between and proc the Triforce, and overall just amazing stats. Then you go into a second item, Terminus. So what Terminus gives you is, of course, you get a really good amount of AD and attack speed. You also get on-hit magic damage, which is of course very useful, and you also of course get your defensive stats when you stack it up, and also you get the penetration stats when you stack it up. Now this is going to go very nicely into Charge Blade, which is going to again give you attack speed, so you're going to attack pretty quickly, and you can of course proc your on-hit magic damage really often, but also Charge Blade gives you even more magic damage because you of course get that Sunburst passive, where again after you cast spells you get extra magic damage on hit. So this is also going to kind of combine together with the Triforce, where you can proc Spellblade and you can proc Sunburst at the same time. So overall, these 3 items just synergize very, very well together, and they just work very well. And then of course here, although we don't really have any other crit item aside from the Charge Blade, getting IE is going to put you to 50% crit, gives you a lot of AD, which in this case is pretty good because you get a little bit of AD from each of your items, but not a ton. So IE is going to give you a huge boost to your AD, and of course increases your crit damage by quite a bit. So overall, you're only going to land up with like 50% crit chance, which is not exactly the best, but half of the time, on average, you're still going to crit, which is still pretty good. And generally go for GA as the last item for the revive. Now of course, you could, instead of going for GA, go for other defensive items, or going to even more crit. So for example, a good mix would be something like Shield Bow, which is going to give you both the shield as well as the crit, or of course even Bloodthirster is always going to be good, things like that. Kind of depends on where you're going to go with it. Now the more popular rune on Zeri currently is Conquer, and it has been for a very long time now compared to Lethal Tempo, and the main reason for that is Zeri can stack up Conquer very quickly. Of course, when she QWs and of course autos in between, and then her Q's gonna come back up again, she can stack Conquer very, very quickly compared to Lethal Tempo. So with the Conquer, you can get of course the Omni Vamp as well as the bonus AD. Now you don't have a lot of healing in this build because you don't actually have Bloodthirster, so your only healing is coming from your Gluttonous Greaves from the build side, and here of course we have more Omni Vamp from the Conquer rune. So of course, we auto-attack quite a bit, so Brutal is going to be great here. We have Giant Slayer, of course, generally it's the best rune in this slot, unless, they are full squishy, then Coup de Grace will be better. And here, Bloodline, because we already have 3 attack speed items at the beginning, we don't need any more attack speed, because Zeri does have an attack speed cap as well. So Bloodline here is going to be ideal. However, in the match later, I actually forgot that and I actually went for Alacrity, so just take note of that. And here we go for Bone Plating, or something else like Hex Splash is going to work pretty well as well. And for the spells, you want to take Flash together with Ghost if you can help it. Ghost, of course, synergizes very well with Zeri and her playstyle of, just getting a lot of movement speed, in the ulti state and things like that. But if you really need Exhaust, you can go for that as well. But with all that said, we can now move on to talking about the gameplay. Okay, so now we're moving into the gameplay itself. Okay, so first things first, we haven't covered Zeri in a long time, so just real quickly, Zeri generally likes to play with an Enchantress support. In particular, Yuumi and Lulu are her best supports, because she is a late game hyper carry that just wants to be buffed and protected, really. So here we have Leona, not exactly the best for Zeri having an engager, but it can also work if you can help Zeri get some kills early and start snowballing. That would kind of work as well. So we'll have to see how it goes. Yeah. So here we're against the Nautilus and Misfortune. Now this is the reworked Misfortune. This is actually this game was played, I think, I think the day before Misfortune's rework. But of course, as you guys can see from our daily uploads, of course we have to, or not we really have to, but we ended up pushing this video all the way back to this point. But yeah, so here, we're just trading with the enemy team. I have a full stack Conquer, which is why I'm trading here. And I know Misfortune has lethal, she has, sorry, not lethal tempo, but she has first strike. So she already expended her first strike, so I know that, it's probably a good idea for me to trade. Now, unfortunately here, we end up getting 4-man ganked by the mid laner and the jungler, which I guess well played by them because it was a very volatile bot lane. And I strongly believe if we didn't get ganked by them, I think we would have actually killed at least one of the enemy bot lane. So we end up, both me and my support end up dying. Good job by the enemy team with that 4-man gank. I suspect that the Darius and the Vex might be duo, because they seem to be roaming together quite a lot, which you definitely don't see in solo queue. And of course, having a mid-jungle duo in the game is a huge advantage. You can see that here Vex and Darius are roaming again and end up killing Lux. Here I get hooked by Nautilus just off of the ward, out of going to ward. We do end up having to get, we do end up getting Misfortune's Flash. I do Ghost just to get out of range of her attacks, because although she already procced her passive, which is of course her old passive, onto me, it's overall, still a little bit risky that because Misfortune has pretty high base damage. So here, Nautilus ends up taking a whole bunch of damage. I'm, of course, just stacking up my Conquer at this point. I'm both really, really low. I'm trying my best to kill somebody, anybody. I end up getting the kill onto the Nautilus just as Leona hits the E onto the Misfortune to lock her down, and we end up getting a very kind of close 2v2 kill. Now, here I want to point out what the issue is for the enemy team. See, Nautilus and Misfortune is a very strong lane in the early game. However, this is the old Misfortune, and she does a lot of burst damage but not a lot of DPS, especially because she has first strike as well. So, after the initial trade where it seems like they're winning, we will win the long fight because, of course, Zeri has way more DPS than Misfortune, and of course, Zeri also has Conquer or Lethal Tempo, both of which is going to lead to a lot of strength in the later part of the fight. So the fact that they just continued fighting us meant that we're at advantage. Speaking of fighting, here both junglers are here against a fight, and here you can see I'm just full stacking my Conquer. Leona unfortunately does die to the Darius, who did get the ulti. And here again, I have a full stack Conquer. I'm just blasting people. Misfortune is really low now. Here I make a mistake, which is I thought that I could just walk out of the MF ulti without having to flash. But by the time I realized that it's gonna kill me, it's too late. So I already end up dying. And of course I don't expend my flash. If I had just flashed there, I would have just gotten the kill on MF and maybe still died to somebody else, but I would have at least gotten the kill on MF there. So that's definitely not the best outcome because I do end up dying to the MF instead. And if you guys take a look here, MF is actually 4-1 at the moment, and she's 1k gold up on me, and 3 minutes into the game. So that's a very not ideal situation, pretty obviously. So we're gonna have to put in some work to try to recover a lead against this MF. And of course, when being so fed, we have to kind of be scared of her because her burst damage is going to be insane, especially if she can, for example, auto me and then bounce a Q off a minion onto me. That's gonna almost one-shot me if she has her first strike, so that is really, really dangerous. Now, thankfully, MF can't exactly do that very well anymore because after her rework and her passive changes, although technically she kind of can because her Q does apply all of the stacks. So this time it will be Q into auto instead of auto into Q. But anyways, that's beside the point. We're just gonna focus on this match where we have the old MF. Might be a little bit confusing for you guys, so apologies on that. But we're gonna focus more on, of course, the Zeri portion of the gameplay. But it's inevitable that I'm gonna have to explain the enemy and what I'm doing to play around them. So one thing that this MF is doing pretty badly is she's using her E to proc her first strike, which is going to give her almost nothing, and it's going to put the first strike on a very long cooldown. Honestly, if I was playing MF, I would rather have my first strike put on cooldown by the enemy than to proc it on my E. And here, the bot lane end up roaming to mid because they do get a lot of priority just off of how strong MF is and the fact that we cannot contest the wave. And our team actually kind of gets killed, not really our team, but our Lux kind of ends up getting killed in the mid lane. So here, we're going to quickly sneak a plate, and we're going to have to recall because they're walking back down here either to go to Dragon or to stop us. Turns out they are trying to stop us, and they did stop Leona from backing, I believe. So the Darius in the meanwhile secures the Herald, which is the better objective. We're not even started on the Dragon yet, so yeah, so that's not really good. Again, they get priority in the lane, of course, because they're a lot stronger than us at the moment. MF being fed and being an early game champion, whereas Zeri is not. So here a fight kind of breaks out. Here we're going to see one of the Zeri strengths, which is you can hop over the wall, come in with the ulti, end up pretty much getting a KS here. And I'm trying to run down the Vex, but I do end up getting feared by her. The bomb playing prevents me from taking all that much damage. However, with the kill onto the enemy jungler and support, and all 5 members of ours are alive, we do end up securing the dragon, so at least that is a win. And now we're gonna just go back to the lane to clear out the wave now. Our team is kind of backing. Of course, Leona didn't manage to reset just now, if you guys remember, so she's, you know, desperate for a reset. In the meanwhile, Kayn is distracting the MF inadvertently, and this allows me to actually push the lane in and get a reset of my own. See if we can complete the Triforce here on the base. We do, so we do get the Triforce first item, which of course is going to be a pretty big power spike for Zeri. Issue is, however, that we are still 1k gold behind the MF, so it's not going to be very easy fighting her, but again, most of her strength lies in her burst and not her DPS. So if we can find a very long fight with her, we probably still win, especially if they're overextended. So we're going to see if they make a mistake, and if they do, we can of course try to capitalize on it. Especially because this Nautilus seems to be very itchy for an engage, especially as we saw from the early game. Here I somehow managed to hit a Aftershock laser onto both of them, and we popped the bone plating of the Nautilus. Now we're just kind of just going in for some poke, and just like here we're actually just stacking our conquerors. So here we end up getting what is it ends up being pretty long of a fight. Our whole team comes in, and MF does end up eventually dying, but unfortunately the shutdown ends up going to Kayn instead of myself. I say unfortunately because even though Kayn is doing well and the shutdown is not wasted on him or anything like that, of course I would have loved to get the shutdown. And I believe that if our team didn't come, we would have just killed MF anyway. Because we already basically killed Nautilus, and MF was just caught out of position anyways, and she has no mobility because she didn't have flash, so she would have died regardless of whether our team showed up or not. And yeah, so there is the mistake we're looking for from the Nautilus in particular. The mistake that he made was just allowing me to attack him for free. And allowing me to attack him for free not only of course does damage to him, but more importantly stacks up my Conqueror. So by the time the real fight broke out and Leona engaged, I already had a full stack Conqueror. So here, once again, MF is not in a position to follow up, and Nautilus engages on me. I now have a full stack Conqueror. MF is now caught off position again, and they basically make the same mistake 2 times in a row. And by they, I mean the Nautilus, because you can see how close MF was to actually killing me. If MF was in a position to follow up from the Nautilus engage, I probably would have just died, because we would have taken the full burst from MF, and then, you know, even though she doesn't do that much damage later on, it still would have been enough to probably finish me off at the low HP that I would have been at. So Nautilus is kind of, I wouldn't say trolling, but he is definitely losing the game for his team. He's like 0-4 at the moment, and he has been kind of inting his MF for the last 2 deaths, to be very honest. So, I mean, we'll take it. But definitely not really the look for the Nautilus. Anyways, here we finally eclipse MF in terms of gold. We're now slightly ahead of MF in terms of gold. We're more or less even. A fight breaks out in the mid lane. MF pops the ulti. I'm just going to walk away from it. Nautilus ends up getting caught again. Again, we end up catching him out. We get a kill on him, but he's only worth 150 gold at this point. We're trying to chase down the MF and the Darius, but Kassadin comes from over the wall from out of nowhere and basically one-shots me. Which is pretty unfortunate. Yasuo ends up getting caught by the Darius hook and dies, and the only survivor, at least for the moment, is Lux. Looks like she will make it out alive. Yeah, I'm not sure what that damage from Kassadin was, but I guess it was first strike and just general Kassadin burst damage, even though he was only at 1 item at that point in time. He only had like a Seraph, so pretty shocking that he just one-shots me, but I guess I am a squishy ADC, so I don't know what else I was expecting. Anyways, we're almost at our second item, the Terminus, but we're gonna have to come down here a little bit to defend. Darius now hooks me in. I'm not sure why I walked straight into him. Thankfully, my team is here to back me up, and we end up just killing him instead. Gonna quickly clear up, you know, the wave and the next one, and then we can look to back and complete our Terminus, which we of course have enough gold for now. Of course, another thing that's very good about Terminus is the fact that it deals with tanks very well, and in this case, we have Darius as well as Nautilus. both being tanks of the enemy team, which is going to allow us to kill them a lot more easily, which is of course going to make just our job a lot more easier. And of course, since Nautilus is always the first person to be focused, like pretty much in every fight so far, that's going to work out really well for us, because we're going to stack our Conqueror on him and at the same time just shred him down. Fight breaks out here, we get the Aftershock Laser onto Nautilus to get the assist, and looks like the second dragon is going to be ours as well. Now here, Darius is walking into the team for some reason. I actually end up cutting off his escape route, funnily enough, because I happen to be just cutting the wave behind to let our minion wave push into this tower so I can secure this tower, which I do, and Darius just ends up walking straight into me. So here I'm walking into the wall while I'm scrolling the map and looking at the dragon. So anyways, me and Kane are just gonna finish off the dragon, and now we're on Ocean Soul Point. Ocean Soul is just an alright soul, better than Mountain Soul at least, and honestly pretty decent on most ADCs, just because of the nature of how you get the healing and the things like that. Anyways, now we're just going to go back to the lane, and the lane being mid lane, because that's the last tier 1 tower that we have not gotten yet, and seems to be a party going on in mid lane, so we're just going to quickly come here to see if we can join up. Unfortunately, we walk into the MFEA, which destroys our bone plating, which was intentional because we wanted to remove her first strike. Turns out that she didn't even have first strike up to begin with, so we kind of end up wasting our bone plating instead. Now we have gotten so much attack speed at this point from our 2 items that we are actually able to just clear the ward with 3 attacks just like that. Elena tries to get a catch onto MF, doesn't end up getting the catch, ends up catching I think Nautilus instead, but I end up getting CC'd by the Nautilus out into the MF ulti, which does end up killing me. So we're gonna have to watch my team for the rest of the fight. Lux gets 2 kills. Darius comes in with the dunk onto the Leona, but doesn't get the kill, unfortunately for him, and ends up dying to the Lux, who now picks up a triple kill. And yeah, so overall my team still win the fight, and we are gonna end up getting the tower anyways, which is of course a good thing. The bad thing is that I just ended up dying there. I had QSS up, but I was not able to react in time to QSS the Nautilus out. Now I will say that I'm not the best QSS user in the world. So sometimes my reaction time is a little bit slow, so unfortunately we're not able to save ourselves there. But if we had a little bit better reaction time, we actually probably would have survived, because if we QSS the Nautilus out, then we would have actually just been able to walk out of the MF ult and not just get CC in it and just die. So anyways, we're just gonna continue on farming the wave. We're just waiting for Kane to finish off the red buff so we can get the buff share. Kane's going for the Raptor, so we're just going to quickly farm the Krug. Instead, now Baron is up, so we don't really want to show on the bot wave, which is why we're walking away from the bot wave instead of pushing it in. I suspected the enemy might actually be on the Baron, which is why I was pinging the Baron. But ends up they are around the area, and I'm not sure if they're doing it, but we're definitely fighting the area. Nautilus and Casson end up going in. Now I'm just chasing them down. I get the ult, and MF that ends up dying because she did get CC. And Darius, with Darius, MF, and Nautilus dead, this looks like it's going to be a free Baron for us. Now we have Vex and Cassadin, who technically do have a lot of burst damage, and they can try to steal, but we'll see if they even attempt it. They don't, so we end up getting a free Baron. Now with this Baron, I'm going to quickly go to the top lane and start pushing the top lane. Probably want to look for a reset sooner rather than later, but we want to get a little bit of a push going first. And my team isn't really resetting either, only Leona really reset. The rest of us are kind of just continuing to push, which is not really the best in the world, because we want to actually spend our gold to be strong for a fight. So we do end up finally resetting. We get enough for Charge Blade, and as you can see, Lux ends up getting shut down by Cassadin because without a reset, she's low on resources, and she also doesn't have items that she could have gotten just from resetting. So here you can see a mistake made by Kane, which is very common when you're a Baron, which is he's counter jungling the enemy jungler instead of just pushing the wave. Like honestly, leaving the red buff up and just pushing the wave and getting the tower is way more valuable than getting the enemy jungler's red buff. So here we almost one-shot Cassadin. We're hopping the wall to finally get the kill onto him. We ulti, and we're gonna have to just run a bit. We flash for not only the kill on Vex, but to avoid the Darius spin as well. We get a triple kill onto the Nautilus, and kind of feeling ourselves at this point. We've gotten rid of the majority of the enemy team. Wind Wall comes up to block all of MF's damage. And yeah, so here is where the mistake happens. Yasuo goes in on the MF, so I thought he was tanking the tower, and I could just get the kill on MF. But he dies way too quickly, and by that time I had already eat over the Nexus onto the MF, and I knew I was gonna die at that point because I knew I didn't have my flash to escape the tower, and there was really no way I was surviving that. So my best case scenario is try to trade 1-for-1 with the MF, and even if we did trade 1-for-1, it's actually a 2-for-1, which is no good. Or yeah, so definitely a bad decision by me to do that. So yeah, shouldn't have trusted the Yasuo to tank the tower. I mean, he was tanking the tower, but he just wasn't fast enough. Anyways, Kayn ends up smiting way too early, and Darius just comes in with a free smite, and so we don't even get the Ocean Dragon Soul. So that's just amazing. It's all falling apart in an instant. Anyways, what we can get is the red buff share, and probably the Krugs as well. So of course, especially when you're playing with this particular build with the Triforce, and of course with the Charge Blade, you always want to be sure to auto attack in between your cast to proc your spell blade. You don't want to just spam all your spells and then auto attack afterwards. You want to auto attack in between. Here Vex hits the ulti on me. I'm gonna QSS the Vex ult so I don't get feared, and Vex ends up getting caught out basically just from overcoming onto me, and we end up getting the kill. Now Darius is now getting caught out. We go in with the ulti, and we're just blasting whoever we can. In this case, it's like pretty much just the Nautilus who's the first target. And everyone dies except Darius, who's now on the run. We slow him down with our Q and our W, and I thought we were eventually going to be able to kill him with our auto attack. So it turns out the red buff ends up picking up the kill onto him. Now with all the enemies dead and a wave in mid lane, this is going to be where we can finally end the game, as you're about to see in a couple of moments. You can see how the Zeri build works and why this build is actually pretty good, even though it's not so popular now. But I'm going to leave you guys with the stats as usual. So thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.
Victory!